Good morning, everybody. So today we're in Finger Lakes region, and to be exact, on the Seneca Lake, and we're going to visit Rose Hill Mansion. Rose Hill Mansion is located in Geneva, New York. It's about 10 to 8 minutes away from the main downtown area in Geneva, and it's open May through October. This elegant Greek Revival 19th century mansion was built in 1839. So we're going to go into a carriage house right in front of us. This is actually an information center and a gift shop. And as soon as you walk in, you see this beautiful Model T Ford from 1916. This car used to belong to a Swan family who lived in Rose Hill Mansion from 1850 to 1890. Rose Hill Mansion has a very interesting story, which we'll get back to in a second. But we're going to do a quick walk around the property. So this building right in front of us used to be a cottage for the tenants who used to work on the farm, and now that's where the restrooms are located. As I briefly mentioned before, this place has a very interesting story. It used to be a farm, a summer estate, and even a nursing home before it became a museum in 1968. And at some points of its history, there was no indoor plumbing, so I guess that's where they used to get their water, right from this well here. We got to the main porch of the mansion, and that's where the tour starts, so I'm going to go in and see what's inside. The story of Rose Hill Mansion begins in 1802 when Robert Rose moves here with his family from Virginia. And here we see the portraits of Robert and Jane Rose. In 1838, New York City businessman William Curley Strong purchases the property and builds the mansion. The architect of the property is unknown, but the styles suggest that it was the design of the property was influenced by Maynard Lefevre and Andrew Jackson Downing, both proponents of Greek Revival. In 1850, property changed hands again, and it was purchased by Benjamin Swan, another New York City businessman, and he purchased the property as a wedding present for his son Robert Swan. As you guys have probably already gathered, that the name Rose Hill Mansion actually came from a first family that developed this land. While the new house was being built on a new property, Robert Rose had his family live in Geneva, and the project is believed to be complete around 1809, which consisted of a wooden frame house and a rear kitchen wing. When the next owner of the property started building the Rose Hill Mansion, Rose's old house was moved and serves as a carriage or the visitor center right now. The only thing that wasn't moved was the kitchen wing. Rose was a prominent member of the new community of Seneca Lake. He served in New York State Assembly in 1811, 1820, and 1821, and in U.S. House of Representatives from 1823 to 1827. He was also an incorporator of Seneca Lock Navigation Company that built First Canal that connects Seneca River, Seneca, and Cayuga Lakes. He was also a founding member of New York State Agricultural Society. Now, I'm going to jump back and forth here just because I wanted to mention the Swan family briefly. So we're going to get back to the chronological order in a second. But as you guys already probably noticed, a lot of items in the house are actually from the Swan family, one of the last owners. So those little pipes you see here in the office area, they're part of the irrigation system which Robert Swan installed on his property to increase the drainage of the land and to basically have it more accessible for farming. And his neighbors were laughing at him at first for that interesting, funny system, as they thought, but then they realized how much more potential he brings out of land, and they started implementing it themselves. We see throughout the time, unfortunately, some of the inventions or new processes are being left out in the beginning, but then once people realize how useful they are, they start implementing it themselves. As you could probably tell already, he's been a very successful and innovative farmer. But let's get back to our story in a chronological order. After Rose's death in 1835, in 1837, William Curly Strong bought the Rose Hill property in the state. Stone made a fortune in the wool business and decided to retire on the new property. As a newly rich person, he wanted to have a magnificent house, so he had the present Rose Hill mansion built in what was called the High Greek Revival style. As I have just mentioned, he moved most of the Rose's house a little bit to the north, but the kitchen is the only thing that stayed in the same place and was actually incorporated into this elegant new mansion. This beautiful Greek Revival mansion was finished in 1839, just in time for President Martin Van Buren and his friends to make a visit. In 1848, another wealthy New York City businessman, Benjamin Swan, this 1,200 square foot Rose Hill mansion is considered to be one of the finest examples of Greek Revival architecture in the United States. After William Strong's wife died in 1843, he moved back to New York City. In 1848, another New York City businessman, Benjamin Swan, purchased the property and gave it to his son as a wedding gift. The value of the property at the time was $40,000. The Swan family had 6 children who lived beyond infancy. Swan family did not leave at Rose Hill alone. They had a number of servants who cooked and cleaned for them. They also, over the term of 40 years they owned the property, they had a number of workers who took care of the grounds, animals, and crops. There are a lot of interesting artifacts in the house, like this is actually Benjamin Franklin. There's a lot of interesting artworks which preserved here from the Swan family. And as you walk up and down the stairs, as you go into all those rooms here, you kind of feel, the uniqueness of this house. And it's just, the feeling is hard to describe. It's something, again, like I probably say in a lot of videos, you have to be here for yourself to enjoy. But the atmosphere is just, they did a great job maintaining this property, I'm going to be honest. Now, getting back to the story of the family that last occupied this house, Robert Swan hired a number of temporary workers to help him on the farm, and he used to give him a year term, and he also provided housing for them. Most of the workers Robert and Margaret hired for the farm and inside the house were Irish immigrants. After Robert Swan's death in 1890, Rose Hill Mansion was used as a summer estate by several other owners. Unfortunately, by 1950s, the house was not maintained well, and basically it was even noted by one of the writers that it was fast becoming a beautiful ruin. But luckily that all changed in 1958 when William Strong's grandnephew Joseph purchased the property. Joseph and his family lived in the mansion while doing the restoration work. They also were trying to pitch to the architectural historians and preservation societies how valuable this house is as far as historic perspective. In 1965, Robert Swan's grandson, Waldo Hutchins Jr., purchased Rose Hill property for Geneva Historic Society. After 3 years of restoration, the museum opened its doors to public and tours. I think this house and the entire property had such an interesting story of a transformation. It was a farmhouse, but then it became a Greek revival mansion, and President Van Buren was here at some point. And it is a short part of the story when it went to ruins, but it was rescued and it was restored for us to enjoy now. We can see the stories of people and the artifacts from back then. And let's face it, one day we all going to be history. And we would only hope that the buildings or the artifacts from our time will be restored and preserved. This way, the future generations will be able to see how we lived. Well, on that note, I'm going to say thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this story and journey through historic Rose Hill Mansion. Until next time.